This is going to be interesting. Welcome to my first Patreon live, YouTube live. I don't know what's going on here. We'll see what happens. Oh, yeah. Let's see what happens.
Are you sure about that? Absolutely. I have a question.
Oh, somebody's here. Who showed up? Hey, Marie, what's up? Hey, listen, everything is by luck today because I've never used this platform before. Like, I don't know how YouTube Live works. Like, I know it's in Patreon, but like, I don't know where all the comments supposed to show up. So we are about to be learning here today. Whoever does show up. Did you get a notification on your phone or like via email? How you see it? If y'all hear my mom in the background, she's working with a client. You know, we do alterations here. This office was originally supposed to like be where I just see my clients all the time. See that little cabinet right there? Those are fabric books. You know, this is where I fit people up and do all that stuff. But I haven't done a whole lot of that. Oh, you got the Patreon notification. So you got the app, right, Marie? Hey, Candace, what's up? Welcome. I'm just giving people a second to show up because I know we've never been on this platform before for a live. Makila, what's up? How you doing down there? You in Florida, right, Makila? Like, how are things down there? I know some people in Georgia had it real rough. Anybody in Augusta, check in. I know some people in North Carolina had it rough. One of the members of our community, suffered a tragic situation. I won't even get into it right now, but Helene came through and wreaked havoc on a lot of people. Let me see. Ooh, that's crazy. Like, look, the whole like on my side of the city, it was cool. On the other side of the city, So, for me, I just I slept through the storm. It was like last Thursday night. I slept through it. Oh, let me close the door. They over there talking. Yeah, good. You. Okay. Yeah, good to meet you too. Yeah, absolutely. All right, all right, all right. Here we go. I'm gonna try to put up a post in the ecosystem for the people. Oh, okay. Rich Auntie put up a post. Dope. So yeah. I wonder is there one in Holy Smokes? April, what's up? Celeste, what the deal? So let me put my little post up. Is anybody watching from your computer? Is anybody watching like not in the app? Like, let me know if you're in the Patreon app right now or if you're on your computer. Angela's on the computer. People are posting comments on Patreon as well. Hey, Aisha. Hey, Amber. Hey, Phoenix. I see you. Let me see. Okay. All right. All right. Selenia, Angela. So it's like comments in Patreon and on YouTube. Okay, cool. I can like follow that. So y'all, this setup right here is gonna be like real casual. So if you have been in the Holy Smokes group on Facebook, I go live over there from time to time. But there are a lot of people in our Patreon community who haven't joined any of the Facebook groups and are not interested in joining the Facebook groups. And I ain't judging nobody because like some people just ain't got time or that's not where they want to like invest their time. So I'm just bringing some of these lives over to Patreon so that we can all enjoy them together without having to be in a group. But if you haven't joined the Facebook groups or in like any of them whatsoever, I want to encourage you to check out at least one. My favorite is Holy Smokes. A lot of the women in the ministry, which is, I mean, TFC is like 70% black women, and black women in African spirituality is like real popular. So that's another group, the Fellowship Hall. Shout out your favorite group in the comments so that people who may not know about them, like, can get a little idea of what the people like. Yeah, so we just gonna talk. I'm glad I can see everybody's comments because like on Facebook Live, they be messing with the comments. I don't know, like I can't see them half the time. Okay. On the app, watch on the laptop. Celeste went to the app. Yeah, I think it works better on the app, y'all. When I got the Patreon notification, I went to Patreon automatically. All of my faves are going live at the same time. Yo, it's funny, this whole like spinning the block to going live again. Like when I started on social media, like doing like ministry related stuff, I started by going live on Facebook with a weekly vlog called Christian Conversations. But I wasn't doing it with like some end goal. I didn't have any desired outcome other than to just share what was on my heart because there wasn't really another platform that offered me the opportunity to do that because the way that I was thinking was like becoming so disruptive. So yeah, I was just doing it for fun. But as I have become a professional content creator over the past couple of years, it's constantly being reinforced um, how valuable live streams are. So we just trying things out. So yeah, let's talk about sex. The Fellowship Hall. Yo, I was I was in the ecosystem and I was in the Let's Talk About Sex group And it said the chat feature has been, what did it say? The chat feature has been suspended or something. It was like y'all sharing stuff going against our community guidelines. Who been in the Let's Talk About Chat? Let's Talk About Sex chat being nasty. I ain't even looked at it yet. I ain't even looked at it. Somebody in there being nasty. We gonna get to the bottom of it. Nah, like Facebook meta rules be funny acting. So yeah, chats have been paused, is what it says. Chats have been paused. Lord. But yeah, Let's Talk About Sex is the adult side of TFC. We not in there like passing around porn, but we have conversations about sex. Because conversations about sex in church have generally revolved around abstinence, purity, don't do it unless you're married, no conversations about consent. Matter of fact, I saw something, I haven't confirmed the headline yet, but I'm pretty sure I've never seen anything that came from Baller Alert on Instagram that wasn't true or that I confirmed wasn't true. So I saw this headline. Matter of fact, no, I did confirm it because I posted it on Facebook where, like, in Florida, they are banning the teaching of consent. Like, I confirmed this. They're banning the teaching of consent in their schools. And this comes from a Christian nationalist political platform. Ron DeSantis runs on like a Christian nationalist type of platform, much like Trump does, and they don't want the teaching of consent or contraception. So they only want the teaching of abstinence. And then they turn around and say, we're against the indoctrination. And that's so funny to me because, like, fundamentalist Christianity says they're against all the stuff that they turn around and do. And that's like, that can be really challenging in my position sometimes because I really wholeheartedly believe in the way of Jesus. And I don't believe you got to be a Christian to like walk in the way of Jesus. Is love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. Um, but like people give Jesus such a bad rap that it's hard sometimes. And I know we've talked about that a number of times before. I was like, I like Jesus, but like sometimes just dealing with the people who claim to represent him, it just make you like want to shy away from it. Cause like people, they be using, they use the language of love, they use the language of belonging, they use the language of indoctrination, but they always use it like in reverse of what it actually means. And they keep people confused all the time. They keep people confused. Um, so yeah, Janessa, what's up? What's up? What's up, Corinne? Yeah, it's definitely predatory. It's definitely predatory, y'all. So look, one of the things that I want to do on these lives is create opportunity for Q&A. One of the developments over the past like year or so is like my DMs, probably like past couple of years, my DMs be wild. Like, I don't know if people realize how frequently people like just want to pick my brain and want to like have a conversation. And I get too many inquiries to even respond to all of them. So I do want to create a platform where I can respond to some of those questions in a setting like this, because I can't respond to everybody individually. But hey, if you see me post something and it brings up a question and you want to talk about it, or we do a recording of the podcast and you have a question when we go live here, feel free to drop those questions. We gonna just have conversation here, real casual, real unscripted. I'm not coming in here with like a whole script of we got to cover all of this stuff. But yeah, I just want to like chop it up with y'all. And on that note, the next podcast recording is gonna be next Friday. So not tomorrow, but next Friday. Let me see if anybody said anything else over here in Patreon. Let me see. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna talk about. So look, I want y'all to think about some stuff y'all want to talk about for next week's recording of the podcast. We coming back after the break next Friday. We're not coming back this week because we got Holy Smoke Chicago. So for all the Chicago people, Saturday, Holy Smoke Chicago at 12 noon. And then Sunday, I'm preaching at the Cove, Stephen Thurston's church in Chicago, New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church. So yeah, and I'm a preacher oldie but a goodie. I'm going all the way back for the people who are in day one or have been in day one. I'm gonna go all the way back and preach who is my neighbor. I'm gonna preach that message on Sunday. And I think that's always a good one to just go back and brush off because it's foundational for who we are as a ministry. So if you want to join us in Chicago this weekend, it's going down. All right. So yeah, in a minute we're gonna talk a little bit about what's up, Rich Auntie. We're gonna talk a little bit about like what we gonna discuss on the podcast next week. Because in case y'all didn't know, like we make podcast topics based off of the things that are important to you. So I pay attention to what y'all talk about in the ecosystem. I pay attention to the stuff that y'all react to and respond to and comment on because that tells me that it resonates with you. Whether it resonates in a positive way and it makes you feel good or it pisses you off. I pay attention to that. And like a lot of the topics that we discuss come from the things that make y'all tick. So listen, in a minute, we're going to talk about podcast recordings. But one thing I wanted to address, because, you know, just coming off sabbatical and it was like real packed. The schedule was real packed towards the end of August, right? We had Dayfest. Shout out to everybody who made that special. We had a great time. You can register for Dayfest 2025 right now. It just go to thefaithcommunity.org and there should be a button there that says Dayfest registration. So, you know, we had Dayfest, came back, did Deconstructing Deliverance on the podcast. I was trying to get some things done so I could, you know, go on sabbatical. And I said something on the last recording that apparently shook a lot of people. And not everybody who was shook said something, but when a number of people comment something, that lets me know like it's prevalent among us. So we were talking about Megan Ashley, who is a content creator, a podcaster. Who did she used to hang out with? I'm not really big on pop culture, so I'll be having to like catch up sometimes. Pamela keeps me plugged in. I think she was with B Simone. Is that who it was? Oh, Jesus, right. She was with B Simone, and then like they fell out, and now she's like tight with Jackie Hill Perry, and she got this podcast, like In Totality podcast. So her content comes up a lot in our community because of the rhetoric that comes from her podcast. And I said, as we were discussing a clip from her podcast, that I don't believe her. Yeah, who is B Simone? Shanae, she's a celebrity. I don't know anything else. She's a celebrity. So I was saying in my feedback, like, yo, I don't believe her. And that seemed to really affect a lot of people because a lot of people do believe her. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I am just trying to get everybody to consider the scope of what we encounter when we engage social media. Because a lot of us, particularly in my generation, we were introduced to social media as a toy. It's like, oh yeah, you know, it's a toy. You get on there, you talk to your friends. Y'all remember the chat rooms on AOL? You have to like, you know, log in. You have to dial up. You know, you remember the sound, and then you would get in there, and it was just like, basically, the chat feature on this video was social media back when it first started, like the AOL chat rooms. This chat feature, I'm looking at it on my screen. It has stood the test of time because we still do that, right? So we were introduced to social media as a toy, but over time, as it has continued to grow and expand, all of these digital platforms are not just toys for people anymore. They've become tools. So it's very important as a consumer of content, because all of us are consumers of content. So I think it's important for us to understand when someone is using social media as a tool, because people use tools to get like an expected in. They're trying to create something. They're trying to build something. And Megan Ashley uses social media as a tool. So this is what I really want y'all to pay attention to. When you're following people, including me, apply this to me too. When you're following people and trying to figure out if you trust them, and I should say, do what everybody else the way you did it with me, because one of the pieces of feedback I get all the time is how people don't trust me initially, and I get it because I don't fit the idea you had in your head of somebody who would talk like this, who would teach like this. So I get it. I want everybody to use that same level of skepticism when you're dealing with some of these other people who appear to be more trustworthy, because I want you to pay attention to who people platform, right? Because like with Megan Ashley in particular, since we're on the Megan Ashley topic, that is her show. She is responsible for the stuff that is platformed on her show. Now, she might not bear all the responsibility. I'm pretty sure her podcast isn't like self-funded. She's probably funded by somebody else who has a whole lot more money, who has a whole lot more say about what type of messages get platformed. But here's what I do know. These like uber wealthy fundamentalist Christian organizations, they fund podcasts. They fund Christian influencers. Like that is a thing. I don't know the inner workings of her business. I do know it's a business though. So when you get somebody like Megan Ashley who brings somebody on the show who gaslights her, and then she like takes that moment where she was gaslit and she extracts it from the however much of the recording they did. She takes that moment where she was gaslit and she extracts it. And whoever on her team does editing, they went and cut it up in the most effective way possible to pull you into this incident of gaslighting, to pull on your heartstrings. Like that is a very intentional decision. So when you see somebody like Megan Ashley, who is sitting across from a fundamentalist who is gaslighting her, and she just puts it out there for you to be gaslit too, don't let these people off the hook. This is their platform. Social media is their tool. They're using it for a reason. So if they are platforming gaslighting, don't trust the person who's platforming the gaslighting. I just want us to like be mindful of that. Look at who they platform. Now, you do have some platforms where like they give a mixture of opinions and perspectives, right? So if, and I'm just using Megan Ashley because that's what came up. If Megan Ashley brought on fundamentalists at times, and then she brought on progressive thinkers, she brought on spiritualists, she brought on different people from different walks of life to give their different perspectives, then I can respect that because she's trying to like give the whole perspective. But I haven't seen that from some of these platforms. I have not seen that from Megan Ashley. I have not seen that from Hardly Initiated. For those of y'all who are familiar with the Hardly Initiated podcast, like they made a switch in their content where it was like, podcast bros, the manosphere, whatever it is, where just a bunch of dudes talking about rapey type of stuff. And then they went from rapey stuff to fundamentalist Christianity, which is not a huge leap. Like, it's kind of like right there, opposite side of the same coin. So now everybody that I see them promote and platform is some fundamentalist, rule keeping, filthy rag theology promoting person. So for me, it's like, why don't you bring in somebody like Otis Moss? Why don't you bring in somebody like a Daniel Thomas or Donnell or just anybody? There's so many names that come to mind, but I just want us to like really, really keep that in mind, that content creation is a profession and people are doing it in the most effective way possible to get as much of your attention and pull you in as much as they can. And I'm not knocking the profession because it's my profession. That's why I know. Like the growth of the ministry over the past 2 years is directly tied to me becoming a content creator. So I understand how the business of content creation works. And I don't want you to get drawn into the show and think the show is real when somebody sits across from somebody else and has them spew fundamentalist rhetoric and it acts like, oh my God, like I can't believe it. Yeah, you can. That's what you intended to do. So I'm sorry if that like burst anybody's bubble about your favorite content creators and personalities, but again, get down to the substance. We were raised to really pay a whole lot of attention to style, but most of us didn't have deep theological conversations. Like we were just on the surface. We had to memorize scripture. We had to, memorize certain cliches to tell us God is going, come through in the end. And I ain't got no problem with all of that. But like, there are deeper levels to our understanding that we've just never discussed. So a lot of people don't know to look for substance. A lot of people don't know. I just want us to be aware. What y'all were talking about? Marisa, I think she's a comedian. I judge Megan and her content in its totality. So let you foolish. That's good advice and feedback. I'm glad. Marie, this is, save your algorithm. uh, uh, let's see. Yeah, we just got to pay attention, y'all. We just got to pay attention to who people platform. You could come down to some really strong conclusions about me based on who I platform. So I platform Donnell. I platform Daniel Thomas. I platform Jasmine's Garden, Naked Pastor, Otis Moss, Mike Warren, Imani Van Zapp. Like these are the people whose messages I believe in and I want to amplify. That's what it is. Whoever people are platforming, those are the voices they want to amplify. Autumn, I disagree. They are that smart. This is a business. I don't know what to tell you. This is a business. And fundamentalist Christians are in the business of indoctrinating people with fundamentalism at every turn, and they use the media and the platforms that work to their advantage. And social media and podcasting are the biggest platforms on the planet right now. Like advertising dollars are moving away from television, even moving away from Google and moving towards Facebook, social media platforms. So no, this is like, it's really strategic and they really are that smart. So I don't think the problem is their intellect. I think it's their ethics. I believe it's their ethics. And if somebody like Megan ain't that smart, whoever's calling the shots is that smart and she's complicit, If she not that smart, whoever calling the shots is smart and she's complicit. All right. Yeah, I always look at who the person platforms. Yes. Yes, if you platform cringy, then chances are you cringy too. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, this is probably a duck. And if it hang out with ducks, it's probably a duck. Yes, yes. So I don't give people a pass because they're not the mastermind, but they're complicit because it doesn't change the impact. It doesn't change the impact. A whole lot of us in here were indoctrinated by well-meaning people who did not know how they were causing us harm. That doesn't change the impact of how they harmed us. So judge people based on their impact, not their intent, right? Like, or I should say, take into consideration the impact before the intent. Because regardless of the intent, how did this impact me as a person? Did this make me feel better about myself? Did this make me have more confidence in myself? Did this make me love myself better? When I come across these different platforms, how do I feel about myself after being on that person's platform or consuming their content? Like, consider that, because they want you to have that feeling intentionally. If you engage TFC and you walk away feeling empowered and you walk away feeling entertained, maybe you got a good laugh or you feel educated or enlightened, I want you to know that is intentional. We intentionally structured this space in that way so you could experience that. So we're not the only intentional ones. There are people out here that do this at a much higher level than we do. So, let's bear that in mind as we engage these social media streets, these podcasters, these influencers, these people who present themselves as being like super progressive, these people who make us laugh. Like, cause like y'all, for those of you who've been here for a while, you remember the whole Anna Douglas situation. We've been laughing at Anna Douglas. For those who don't know who Anna C. Douglas is, she's a content creator, a comedic Christian content creator who does a lot of like Pentecostal type of content to make people laugh. And she always says, give him the glory. Um, she showed up in my comments one day to bully me with the rest of the fundamentalist Christians, not knowing that I clapped back. And then I had to embarrass her in my story. She was like sending me inboxes asking me to stop and telling me I'm not a real Christian, not a real pastor, all of this type of stuff, right? So, and I didn't say anything in that post to demean anybody, but she came at me hard. So we be laughing at people who like, it's like you got to separate people's art from their ethics. You got to separate people's art from their character, because we laugh at a lot of people who, like, if we got into what they believe and how they see the world, we would not agree with them. We would actually think they were dangerous. That's one of the reasons. No, I'm not even gonna say it. No, because I don't want to burst my own bubble with this, so I'm not gonna say it. I'll share it with Pamela later because she's in here now, and she knows what bubble neither of us want bursted. So I'm not even gonna bring it up. We'll talk about it later. Right? We talk about it all the time. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I ain't gonna talk about it. So y'all, let me see. Next Friday podcast. What y'all want to talk about? What's been coming up over the past few weeks? What topics are, you know, really, really getting you going right now? You got questions that need answers. You got answers that need questions. I'll tell you a couple of topics that have come up just to kind of get the ball rolling. But before we went on sabbatical, I brought up the idea of doing a topic called deconstructing dominionism. Dominionism is this belief that, Christians are supposed to have dominion over everything. And, certain traditions extract certain language around dominion, and then you build a doctrine around that as a way to lord over people. And I want us to, like, be aware of that language when we see it. So, deconstructing dominionism. Also, recently, Theo Bros is another thing that is coming up with this whole, political campaign. And Theo Bros are these Christian nationalist influencers and pastors. Yeah, yeah, Theo Bros. So a number of people have sent me content about Theo Bros, and how they're influencers using social media to push their fundamentalist indoctrination, and literally trying to create a Handmaid's Tale society. Straight up, they say it out of their mouths. Like, we need to go back to where women couldn't vote. Like, these are the types of things that they say. And they have platforms with a lot of followers and a lot of influence. So you got Theo Bros. I've been getting a lot of messages about that. Yeah. Joy Reid posted something about it, Pamela. Yeah. Yeah, Corinne. I have been laughing at Anna C. Douglas for years. And she, every now and then, she show her ass. Every now and then. Ableism in the church. Oh boy. Do we ever do an episode on disability in the church? I get one person telling me to pray away my disabilities. Yo, I think that's a topic we need to discuss. Let me think more around what voices we would include in that. But that's definitely a topic that we need to discuss. I was telling Pamela yesterday, like, now that I live in chronic pain because of my knee injury from, like, I guess we're going on 5 years in January. Now that I live in chronic pain and I can't move like I used to, I don't have the mobility. Like, I understand in more tangible ways how there are certain aspects of our society that just don't like aren't helpful to people who have certain limitations. Because my knee be bothering me sometimes, and I'll be like, man, like, all these stairs ain't where it's at right now. Just last night, that's what happened. Theo Bros and Trad Wife. Oh God, traditional wives, Theo Bros. Yeah, they're like one and the same. If you see these trends about traditional wives, they run in the same circles as Theo Bros. Deconstructing, decolonizing, stewardship of the climate. Okay, yes, we did an episode on that a few years ago. It'd be good to come back to it. What do we call it? 10 years to live, I think. 10 years to live was the episode we did. Oh, April, what is childism? Shoot, I gotta define that before I deconstruct it. What is childism? We should probably also tackle the trad wife concept. It keeps coming up. Women are angry about it. So we could do an episode on, like, Theo Bros and trad wives. Let me see. The climate episode was good. Oh, discrimination against children. Oh. I would need to research that a little bit more and get more well acquainted with that topic. Yeah, ageism but toward kids. That makes sense. Being second, third class citizens. Wow. Let me see if anybody posting anything in Patreon. Also, for people who, like, want us to talk about stuff on the podcast, the way I select topics is by looking at what is being discussed in the ecosystem. So if there's a topic that you like, share it in the ecosystem. That's what that space is for us to talk about the things that we're passionate about. Um, People inbox me stuff all the time, but I pay more attention to the stuff in my inbox when I've seen it in the ecosystem. Cause like right now, this Theo Bros thing, it was in my inbox. It's been in my inbox like nonstop for the past probably like, I don't know, 48 hours. But then I just saw somebody posting it, holy smokes. And I was like, oh, this matters to us. That's really how I think. So like what you're interested in really does matter. And I feel like I'm a broken record. I say that all the time, but I just want to reinforce it because most of us didn't grow up or haven't participated in faith communities where you have so much input on how things go. Usually you get preached at every Sunday. And we were taught growing up as a young pastor, as a young preacher, we were taught that, you get the download from God. You go to the scripture, you read the text, and then God speaks to you, and then that's how you determine your topic. I don't believe that. I don't practice that. Let me say that. I listen to what God is saying through y'all. Yeah. Now I have some stuff that, comes directly to me as well. But most of it comes from just listening to y'all. The biggest part of my job is listening. That's why I appreciate the comments. That's why I appreciate the questions. That's why I appreciate the feedback, because that's the biggest part of my job. And I think that's one of the things that has put me in a position to do this well, because a lot of times pastors aren't taught to spend a lot of time listening. We're taught to pray. We're taught to study. We're taught to preach with power in season and out of season, whether people want to hear it or not. We're taught to do all that stuff, but we're not taught like, yo, spend time listening to your people. I never had one of my elders tell me that. Spend more time listening to your people. So yeah, that's how we roll. So childism is a thing. Wow. Dr. Stacy Patton is a great resource for regarding childism. All right, well, we got to look into it. That is new to me. Y'all be keeping me informed. Oh yeah, another one I thought of, which kind of plays off of what we just discussed here, and actually it ties into the Theo Bros. I know it. So what if we did something called deconstructing Christian influencers? And we talk about the Theo Bros and the Trad Wives, and then if we need to spin off from that and get more detail, we can. Deconstructing Christian influencers. The creator of Parenting Decolonized is another one. Okay, that's a fundamental of good leadership. Not everyone. Well, I appreciate that. I went early on when I decided I was going to preach and decided I was going to pursue ministry as a vocation. One of my commitments to myself was that more than being a great preacher, I wanted to be a great pastor. It's just my commitment to myself. Because being a preacher and being a pastor are not the same thing. There are a lot of great preachers who are horrible pastors, and there are a lot of great pastors who are horrible preachers. And I really, really wanted to be a good pastor. And I just felt like the best way to do that would be to take my people seriously and listen. So I'm glad. Yeah, we've gone from pulpits to podcast mics. uh-huh. Let's see. All right. So if you have any more ideas, anything comes up, like y'all share it in the ecosystem. Or you can share it in the comments on Patreon. We check all of that. Yeah, because that's where the source material comes from. And again, if you got questions, any type of stuff like that, just share it with me, y'all. We're gonna keep this thing going. Again, Holy Smoke Chicago this Saturday. And then Sunday, I'm preaching that new covenant. And next week, we start recording the podcast again. So anytime we go live, it's going to be right here. It's going to be right here. Thank y'all for hanging out. And I'm going to see y'all next time. Peace out.